Hey there. Welcome to another one of our rapid reviews. I'm Jim, the father of the father and son duo who do Fantasy for the Ages, YouTube, and podcast. Glad to have you with us here today as I'm going to take you through another one of these rapid reviews of a book that we've read, this time Dragonflight, book one of the Dragonriders of Pern. If you enjoy this video, I hope you'll like it down below. Consider subscribing to our channel so you don't miss the other things that we put out here. And certainly while you're here, check it out. It's a lot of great content on our YouTube channel, short and long variety things on many different things that Zach and I enjoy geeking out over, from fantasy and science fiction, literature, and other media. A rapid review means that in 10 minutes or less, I'm going to go full plot discussion, spoilers abound, talking about something I've read. Today, that means Dragonflight, book one of the Dragonriders of Pern series. I won't be mentioning the prologue, that's already in another rapid review that you can find here on the channel. Dragonflight, I need to give a little disclaimer about. It is the first book of an amazing 26-book series of the Dragonriders of Pern, most of those written by Anne McCaffrey. I have already read the first 16 books years ago, and now on Discord, we're running a book club where we're working our way through all 26 books. So I'm doing rereads of the first 16 and then new stuff for me. Now, why would I have stopped at 16 back in the day? Well, really, books 1 through 16 tell an incredible story arc that finishes. That's the conclusion. Apparently, there were more stories to tell, and that's why there's 10 more books, and I look forward to getting to them over the course of 2023. Dragonflight, however, is where it all began. And as is not necessarily uncommon with such beginnings, it's a somewhat weaker volume in the series. There are some explicit reasons why it's a bit weaker. It was published in 1968, and it actually flowed from two novellas that Anne McCaffrey had written and had published in science fiction magazines the year before. And a publisher came to her and said, "Hey, Anne, how about putting these two books together, adding a little filler and bridge material, and we'll publish it as a book?" Now, she didn't intend to write it as a book, but she's like, "Okay, so I do this and you'll pay me?" Of course, she put it into a book. But again, it's earlier in her career, and it wasn't intended to be a book from the beginning, so it shows a little bit. It's a little clunky at times, the way it flows. Additionally, just as a younger author at this point, the way she wrote characters, her approach to some of the aspects of Pern, which was a brand new world she was still building, are a little rough. The good news is it's still a great story, and it only gets better from here. So I think any fantasy readers and science fiction readers, because really its base is science fiction, will enjoy this story enough to want to keep going. So what's this story actually about? Well, here on the planet of Pern, people live under the threat of Thread, an organism that falls from the sky every 200 years and kills every bloomin' organic material it can touch. Pretty much the only things safe from Thread are stone, water, and metal. Our story begins after a long interval where Thread didn't fall the last time it was supposed to, so it's been about 450 years since anyone had to worry about Thread. On this planet, we have weirs. These are the places where dragons and Dragonriders of Pern live. These are the protectors against Thread. These bonded for life men, women, dragons who can rise up and fight Thread before it damages the people and the planet below them. There's a whole bunch of weirs around the planet, but we've come upon a time where only Bendon Weir has any dragons and riders left. All the others are abandoned. Again, 450 years since we've needed any dragons, they've all kind of gone away. Traditionally, the communities of Pern, based around holds, small holds and large holds, they tithe to the weir, providing food and supplies, as caring for dragons is a full-time business. They don't have time to raise their own crops or stuff. This therefore allows dragons and riders to be ready at all times to protect the people from Thread when it inevitably falls. But as we join this first story, holders are considering giving up on tithing. I mean, it's been so long since thread, many believe it was just a myth to start with. And others simply think it's not going to happen again. It's over. Dragons are irrelevant, and a plain old drain on resources. Bendon Weir at this point has skittish leadership. They feel as tentative they might be cut off from tithing, so they're trying to dance around and not offend the Lord holders. However, in the midst of this context, we meet Falar, a secondary leader at Bendon who has read the signs and believes threadfall is again imminent. He believes the Weir and the planet must be preparing with urgency for threadfall. Falar is not in charge of Bendon Weir, but his father had been, and Falar is cut from that same mold. He's looking for his opportunity to step into the leadership role and prepare Bendon for the challenge to come. Now, to explain this, I have to explain just a bit about dragons and how Weirs work. The female head of the Weir is the rider of the oldest queen dragon. Most dragons are male, bronze, brown, blue. Green are female, but they're sterile, and men typically ride those dragons. Only the gold dragons lay fertile eggs and are ridden by women, and at this point there's just one queen who has just died. The queen rider and the queen, they're gone, but they left one egg. And this egg is going to be hatching. Now, how you become the leader of a Weir is when that queen dragon goes into heat, she rises up and die, and all largest dragons, typically the bronze dragons, chase her. Whichever one catches her, they mate. And on the ground, the riders of those two dragons, who are psychically connected to their dragons, they also mate, and they become the power couple to lead the Weir, at least until the next time of mating. So for Falar to lead, he needs to have his bronze, Nementh, catch and couple with the queen. Again, the old queen's dead, but she left that queen egg, so he's leading the way to find a new woman to come and impress that new baby gold dragon that's soon to be there. This becomes the tale of finding, therefore, Lessa, the disenfranchised last member of the Ruatha Hold bloodline, who is hidden for years so as to seek her revenge against Lord Fax, the conqueror who overtook her hold and killed her family. Over the course of the story, we see Lessa manipulate Falar into achieving her goal of Fax's downfall, and then we see Lessa brought to Bendon Weir, impress the new queen, Rameth, which leads to her training and eventual rise as the new werewoman of Bendon Weir, with Falar becoming the new were leader at her side in the usual way. And they will prepare to face Threadfall. Now, really, that's only the first half of the novel. The second half, concisely, occurs when Thread actually begins to fall, just as Falar believed. But it falls periodically in swaths all over Pern, and the dragons of Bendon Weir alone are not enough to meet the challenge. We've known from the beginning of this book that dragons can jump between, meaning they leave this dimension, go someplace else with no sensory impact at all there, and then suddenly appear in that new location. Lessa discovers, completely by accident, that dragons can go between not only different places, but different times. With that knowledge, she and Falar devise a plan to create more dragons, sending Falar's younger brother Fëanor and a contingent of dragon riders 10 years into the past on the unpopulated southern continent of the planet to breed up more dragons. Now, this succeeds, but it's still not enough to meet the threat of Thread. Then Lessa comes up with a daring new plan. She discerns that one of the teaching songs told by the harpers of Pern points to time travel. The other Weirs are deserted because she must have gone and brought them forward. So Lessa and her dragon Rameth travel back in time without telling anyone else of the plan. They just up and do it and almost die in the attempt. They are rescued by the Dragonriders of those days, nurtured back to health, and then, with their help, they all move forward, all the Weirs except Bendon Weir, they don't tell them, and they move ahead 450 years to save the day as they all show up, the old-timers in modern-day Pern, and the Weirs are filled again, ready to fight off Thread. More or less, that's the story of Dragonflight. It's a wonderful story, and just the beginning of so much more. Read it! Remember, like this video and subscribe. We'll talk to you next time.